This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
It is Fun Friday. My name is Jeff Sandhu. Today is a special AMA episode. AMA, generally in the internet, it means Ask Me Anything. And we decided to use that, acronym and call it Ask Matt Anything. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning, everyone.
Episode 102. So we decided instead of doing like a look back of the year, we want to give the listeners a chance to get in touch with us and talk to us live in the studio and literally ask Matt anything about some of the stuff that we've spoken about on MSP, which is, Matt explaining the world of tech and how it affects your life, whether it's, your social life, work life, even possibly maybe love life. We don't know. Like if you want to marry an AI, like how is that, is that even possible? And before we sort of begin, we just want to let you know the ways that you can get in touch with us. You can call us.
Wow.
You can call us 0377332900. Again, 0377332900. You can call us and you can speak to us live and you can ask Matt anything. If you're shy, you can go on to the regular WhatsApp 018-789-8899 or on Instagram, it's at BFM Radio. You will see a pinned tweet and you will be able to sort of just reply and then we'll respond to your queries. Now, before we sort of get into what the people want to know...
This person wants to know.
Ask away.
Because
ask Matt anything.
It's been a while, Matt. Just remember where you started, you and me.
I know. I haven't forgotten. I've said to Jeff we should get Frida back into the studio, so I'm really happy that you're here with us today.
This is a reunion of how, I guess, we all started.
Okay, but this is a very important question because, in the early days, we talk about facial recognition when it first came out, right? And I remember it was about 3-4 years ago, and every time you tried to do facial recognition of your face, it came out with a basket full of kittens. It still cracks me up to this day. Have we improved when it comes to this technology?
Well, I had a feeling you might ask me this question. Obviously, it has improved. We're seeing a lot of facial recognition systems. Obviously, they're embedded into a lot of the video surveillance cameras that we see. So you see facial recognition at airports, even on streets, outside railway stations, that kind of thing. It still has a little ways to go in terms of accuracy. And before, I have put people's pictures into Google just to see if it shows up results of, other shots of them or takes me to who the person is. I am still largely anonymous. As I said, I kind of thought you might ask me this question. So I tried it yesterday. And what do you think I got?
A basket full of kittens still?
No kittens this time. But I got a big brown bear wearing a pair of glasses.
Strange, man.
So I guess that is an improvement in the technology. But yeah, I am a cartoon bear.
Maybe that's who you are when you head back home. Maybe that's who you are when you're in your cave. We just don't know this personality.
I think it might have been due to the fact that I hadn't actually shaved yesterday as well. So the bristles set it off. But
probably.
I am a bear.
And Frida's got a second question, which I guess, in a way, this is something that, we spoke about at length for, I guess, the whole year of maybe 2015, 2016. Every other day it was about this subject and we were saying it's gonna change the world, and I remember at one episode we were saying like this is already happening. Frida, what was the question?
3D printing, where is it? Where are we now?
Well, that's the thing. I stopped mentioning it on the show because people were just telling me we're bored, stop talking about it. But the technology has actually come on leaps and bounds. Just this year, the world's largest building was printed in Dubai. Los Angeles, I think, has bought some special construction 3D printing machines that can actually print an entire house in 48 hours. So they're seeing this as one of the potential solutions to their housing problem. We're also seeing, because we're getting a much larger range of materials that the machines can deal with, so we now have machines that can use silica and silicon. So they're being used to manufacture much cheaper and more robust internet cables, because the fiber optics that we use are very delicate and they have to stretch a very, very long way. So that's another technology that's being used. But also, there is a 3D printer currently up in space with some Russian cosmonauts, and they're using it to print meat. So this is
Ooh.
one of
Oh.
So this is one of the first 3D printing machines that can actually print the meat not only with the cells, but actually with the veins and the blood vessels. So it's it's proper bloody meat. It's not just this kind of vinegary flesh that most of the printers can. So yeah, the technology is coming on leaps and bounds. And of course, in the medical sphere, we've made huge advances with printing liver cells and that kind of thing as well. So we're seeing this development into using this technology to print replacement organs.
I finally figured out why I don't eat lunch every Friday. It's because I do this show with Matt, and then I hear it, and I go like, I'm not eating lunch on Fridays anymore.
Well, they can also use that same technology to print mushrooms. So if that's more palatable to you, then we'll leave that one.
Well, I've already got my fill. I'm gonna, leave you guys and let other people ask you questions.
Yes, you can by calling us 0377332900. Remember, you can call and speak to us live in the studio. You can also WhatsApp 018-789-8899 or Twitter, it's at BFM Radio. And just earlier, I started recording a few phone calls, and I got producer Christine to ask her very important question.
Hey, Matt. Just wanted to know, obviously the time of Back to the Future has actually passed, but do you think that time travel could really be a possibility in the future?
Oh, Matt, time traveling, could it be a possibility in the future?
Now, it has to be said that Christine is potentially my least favourite person in the world right now because, as regular listeners to the show know, physics is one of the things that I find the most difficult about doing these shows, because when you talk about black holes, physics is a black hole pretty much inside my brain. Now, in terms of the time travel, well, there's no actual kind of consensus on what's happening with this at the moment. We have a lot of different opinions. I think a lot of the Einsteinian model says that it is potentially possible, but only in one direction. So what we see is more of an aging effect. We see people traveling closer to the speed of light, or the faster you go, you experience time at a different rate. So, for example, astronauts, when they're sent out to space and they're in the space station and they're going around and they're whirling around, they come back and they're actually slightly younger than the people. So the example they use is that if you had twins, one twin was in the space station and one twin was on Earth,
one would age.
Yeah,
different.
The twin on Earth would age slightly faster than the twin up in space. So the closer you get to the speed of light, so this is one of the theories, you can actually harness the power of a black hole and the gravity of a black hole, and you can spin yourself in a black hole. So if you were on a spacecraft within the gravity or the orbit of that black hole, you could potentially, if you spent, say, 3 years orbiting that, you would have aged those 3 years. Everyone on Earth would have aged maybe 10 years.
Wow.
So this is one of the potentials. Now, there are also all the other theories of space being not straight and touching in various places, and you can use wormholes to go through. But by and large, those rely on particles rather than people. So it's thought that even if it was theoretically possible, either to go back or forward or whatever, human beings would actually be ripped apart because the forces of gravity would actually pull your atoms essentially apart.
There you go. Who needs Neil deGrasse Tyson when we have Matt Armitage in the studio today?
And not a single equation mentioned.
There we go. Ask Matt anything. It's happening live today. You can call us 0377332900, 0377332900. We'll have more questions after this. Ironically, this is Supermassive Black Hole by Muse, BFM 89.9.
Become fabulous millionaires. BFM 89.9.
Welcome back to a very special Tech Talk episode. It is Fun Friday. It is MSP. It is Ask Matt Anything. Remember, this is the chance for you to speak to Matt. You can call and talk to us live, 0377332900, 0377332900. 2900. If you're shy, you can stick to the regular WhatsApp 018-789-8899, or you can go on to Twitter. It's at BFM Radio. We've got a message on WhatsApp, Matt, from Sam, who says, my question for you, future Matt, is will AI really be able to harness the power of internet data and build apps based on very minimal interaction or even very minimal human input, and eventually building more secure and superior apps and finally taking over the world?
Hey, Sam, thank you very much for the question. I think the easy answer to that is yes. But the more complicated answer is eventually. There's currently a startup, I think it's called Engineer.ai. It's an India-based startup, which is actually looking at using AI to develop apps commercially. However, about 80% of the work at the moment, I think, is done by humans. So at the moment, it's AI assisted while they develop all of the kind of systems in the background that will enable the AI to do it without that kind of human oversight. Now, that company is doing very well at the moment. It's raised a lot of money. It's one of the Silicon Valley darlings. But it does still have a long way to go before we get to that point. Yes, as I said, I do think we will get to the point where AI will be making these apps because there's no reason why it shouldn't be. And yes, we will also have in place a lot of control systems so that AI is actually making a lot of the decisions. Now, whether the AI is deciding what apps we're going to be using is something that I'm not sure. But I was reading something yesterday, I think, about AI in general. And the predictive powers of AI are actually quite strange. There was a medical tech report that came out that AI can actually predict from ECG heart readings if a person is going to die or not. So the reading may look normal to a cardiologist, but the AI can predict whether that person will pass away within the next 12 years. The problem is we don't understand how the AI is actually making that decision. So cardiologists have looked at the data, and the current thinking is maybe our current medical approach is wrong. The way we analyze and look at the data is wrong, but we're not sure how it is that the AI is able to predict these things. At the moment, it's only been done on historical data. They're not using it with live ECG readings. But yeah, we are on the cusp of AI being able to do incredible things in our society.
All right. We've got another question on Twitter. Since our jobs are already very data-driven, when, if not, will the bosses get replaced by AI? We working for the robots. We work for the machines. Remember, you can also get in touch. It's 777-332900 if you want to call us.
I love this question. So thank you, Christopher, for sending this particular question. Now, there was a World Economic Forum report that I think came out. I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before, and it was about the spread of AI within companies. And one of the things that it suggested was that we see this kind of bottom-up spread of artificial intelligence. So it takes over the manual jobs and it gradually goes into middle management. However, this particular report said that it was all the top management, so the general managers, the CEOs, those jobs would be safe. Now, when you look at the way AI is actually working, that doesn't necessarily make sense. When you look at companies that are, quoted on the exchanges or whatever, the money, the financial markets are already driven by AI and algorithms. So in a lot of ways, it would make sense if the senior management at companies was able to communicate with the machines in the market in the same language. So for me, it actually makes more sense to start replacing those senior management positions with AI, rather than this kind of, bottom up, actually have more of a top down. So I think we are going to start seeing that. As to how long, I'm really not sure, but I agree with Christopher. It's a when, not an if.
All right. We've got a call from Iqbal Amir. Iqbal, what is your question?
Hey, Matt. Congratulations on hitting 100 episodes. That's amazing. So my question is basically, how will people accept bribes in the future? These days we've got so many corporates and other people that receive bribes through kickbacks, or even the whole 1MDB fiasco that happened. So my question is basically how's it going to work in the future? How are these people able to receive bribery? Well, let me know, Matt.
Interesting question there,
Interesting
Iqbal.
question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Iqbal. Now, I'm assuming that you mean you want to stop the bribery rather than making it easier. Of course, blockchain technology is one way. If we have digital currencies, if we have these chains in place, of course, the blockchain is a ledger, so it's a ledger that contains every single transaction. If we move to this kind of open source currency where you can see how the money is moving, that should go a long way towards eradicating bribery, whether it's at the top of society or at the bottom of society, because you won't be able to divert money. Anytime you try and divert money, that particular chain will end. The money is not going to its intended recipient, or it makes it much easier for accountants or forensic accountants or investigators to actually find where money has been bled out of the system, because there will be that direct chain. You can always follow it from where the money originates to where it ends up.
Yeah.
And everyone can do that. It's very hard to replicate the blockchains. So the idea of the fraud and forgery becomes much more difficult as well. So you end up with a system that's a lot more robust, a lot more transparent, and hopefully will prevent this kind of large-scale fraud in the future.
0377332900 for you to talk to Matt and ask your questions. We've got another caller, Olivia. She's got another question.
Hi, Matt. This is Olivia, and this is what I want to ask you. My question to you would be on biotechnology. Biotech, it's technological applications that will use biological systems or living organisms and to make and modify products and processes. And that's most likely going to be the future of medicine, healthcare, agriculture even. So my question to you would be, part one, which part of the human would you recommend to upgrade? And two, given a choice, which part of yourself would you upgrade and why?
I can tell you, Olivia, that for the second part of the question, Matt is the perfect human being. He's the perfect specimen of a human being. That's why we're doing an Ask Matt Anything. Going back to the first part of the question, though, which part of the human body would you recommend upgrading?
Well, I guess the one that you want to upgrade first is actually the brain.
Yeah.
We're seeing these advances in neurotechnology. We're seeing all of these brain reading devices coming to market at the moment. And we could potentially have a scenario where people are enhancing their brains, whether by adding chips, whether by adding connectivity to the cloud, so that you could actually bring the capabilities of an artificial intelligence into your memory. So you could be recording your memories as though it were to a hard drive, for example.
It's like
so
a
you can
Black Mirror episode.
Well, I mean, this is where the technology is, and this is the direction that it's heading. This, to me, would be the most obvious thing to do because, as well, that kind of enhances your employment prospects as well, because you have perfect recall of information. You don't have to take notes in a meeting because you can just replay the meeting back anytime that you want. And of course, you can also do things, hopefully, in terms of hacking your DNA and whatever, to improve your intelligence, to boost your intelligence as well. Now, to the second part of the question, which is which part of myself would I upgrade? I would probably not upgrade my brain because I kind of like my brain and I don't really like the idea of people drilling into it. So on the one hand, I'm advocating upgrading your brain, and on the second, I am being a coward and saying don't touch mine.
I would upgrade probably the heart. I think the heart would probably be a useful upgrade.
Well, one of the shows that I want to do in the future is actually about staying young until you die, because we hear about people who are looking at life extending technologies, but there's a kind of parallel research to that, which is not about extending the term of your life so much, but actually just making your body function as it does when you're in your 20s and your 30s until you die in your 70s or 80s or 90s. So, yeah.
0377332900 for you to get in touch and ask Matt anything. We've got another caller on the line.
Hey, Matt. So I just want to ask, we always talk about machines and fighting robots in the future. But what if we become the machines of the future? Like, how far are we from changing our limbs and changing our organs to robotics and using metal to make sure that we live longer? So what if it comes to a point where we don't fight the machines in about 50 to 100 years, but humankind becomes the machines of the future?
Arvind there, talking about, taking the step further, I guess, that, we become the machines.
Well, again, I think this is the direction that we're heading in. I mean, for example, the example I used before of putting an AI into your head. So once you do that, you ask the question, am I one individual or am I two? Does that AI fundamentally change who I am? Am I part machine? When you start looking at other kinds of upgrades for, again, for example, let's say I go for a job at a warehouse for a big online retailer, and that company says, yes, we'll give you the job, but it would be really great if you had a telescopic arm so that you could reach everything on the high shelves. Yeah. So you can see this kind of mixing of robotics and humanity. And as I said before, we're already starting to hack our DNA. We're on the path to AI and machines becoming sentient. So we're seeing this kind of merging, us moving more towards a machine space, machines moving more towards this kind of human space. So at some point, I do think we will probably meet in the middle. And yes, there will be a blur between humans and machines. And again, especially when we look at some of the medical technology, something that just came out onto the market is a portable kidney. It's basically a portable kidney dialysis machine, but it's being billed as a portable kidney. So you carry it around like a little shoulder bag and it performs the dialysis on the go. So again, is that person human or machine? Because the human can't live without the machine. So we're already seeing the blurring of lines with artificial hearts, artificial kidneys, with technology that we already have.
And the scary thing with DNA hacking is that, it's relatively cheap. Because we've seen the underground hackers kind of doing it on their own, which is scary because there's
$30 you can hack your own DNA.
We don't suggest you doing that though, because that is very risky. Remember, you can call us 0377332900. You can speak to us live. You can ask Matt anything. We'll be right back with more. Right now, though, it's Radiohead with Everything in its Right Place. BFM 89.9.
Boyish 40-something millionaires. BFM 89.9.
Welcome back to Fun Friday. Ask Matt Anything is still happening. No geeks because it's a special live episode. Remember, you can call us 0377332900 or you could WhatsApp 018-789-8899. But we want you to call 0377332900. You can also get in touch on Twitter. It's at BFM Radio. We've got a message on Twitter by Dr. Doom. I love his name. If you could interact with your phone via Siri or Google, could you go through a whole week without touching your phone?
Well, thank you, Dr. Doom. I mean, this is the way that we're actually seeing a lot of the technology going. When we look at a lot of the assistants, particularly the Alexa devices from Amazon, those are really specifically designed to be used without accessing a screen.
There's not even a screen on Alexa.
No, on a lot of them, there's not even a screen. The latest round of devices, you do have like small touchscreen panels, but it's very limited. It's just for very small amounts of data. Most things are supposed to be done by voice and for you to listen to the answer. And we are seeing a lot of technology moving in this direction because when you look at the way that we use our phones, it's not a very natural way of navigating the world. In our interactions with each other, we talk. That's the most natural way for us to communicate. So finally, the technology is catching up with the human mode of communication. So currently, I think it would be quite difficult to go an entire week without touching a device. A day, maybe. Also, it depends on what kind of information you need. I think work is probably more of a sticking point. But even then, when you start thinking about this kind of next jump to voiceless technology, when we start talking about I know Google Glass wasn't a particularly good example, but when we talk about screens being embedded in contact lenses or glasses, or even with little projectors so that you can just beam your screen onto whatever surface is around you, or potentially with a link I shared with Jeff yesterday about sound waves being used to create holograms, you could even pop up screens around you based on sound waves.
Cool.
So we do have a lot of technologies that are going to free us from our devices. We're not screen free at the moment, but in the future we may well be.
All right, 0377332900. You can call us and ask Matt anything. We've got a question from Maggie Bess on WhatsApp. A question is, would mankind lose their privacy except for those who are too poor to own any form of gadgets? If yes, wouldn't that mean we have lost our freedom?
Yes.
Yeah, we've lost our freedom,
Thank you, Maggie. Now, to the part of the question about people who are too poor to own gadgets, well, even those people are still being surveilled. Even those people are having their privacy compromised because our privacy in most public spaces is being logged by devices. In the future, again, as we see kind of money being moved towards a digital form, there is a real potential for people who don't have these devices to be essentially disenfranchised. I had a question from a friend on a similar basis, but asking the opposite. How can you avoid this kind of digital intrusion? And in short, it's very, very difficult unless you were to live completely off the grid and to not use money for transactions, to just use barter. It would be extremely difficult to not be tracked and not be stalked. And in fact, there is a huge array of apps now that can be put on phones and devices to track you. Now, they're marketed at spouses who think their partner is
or kids,
cheating, or for kids or whatever. There are a lot of legal issues around them. Also for employers putting them onto office-owned devices. So we are seeing this sort of this philosophy of tracking coming into every part of society.
All right. We've got another call. Arif.
Hey, Matt. So, with this whole big thing about data breaches and everybody in these big six corporations, Facebook, Google, and Apple, they're all taking all the data in and at times misusing them or perhaps misusing them. In the future, do you think the world will be able to break free from them and use the internet responsibly without having to worry about our data?
Can we break away from the big six? Thank you, Arif.
Thanks, Arif. Now, we talk about the big six as being these kind of foundation stones of our society, but in reality, they aren't really. The majority of these companies are only kind of 10 or 15 years old. When we look at companies like IBM, which were probably close to 100 years old, if you look at some of the, again, the German technology firms can be 100, 150 years old. We have a lot of companies with much longer pedigrees who are still there. They don't gather so much they don't garner the headlines in the same way that Facebook and Apple and these companies do. Now, of those companies, I would imagine that, let's say 20, 30 years down the line, I don't think we'll be hearing from Facebook. I don't think Google will be the force that it is now.
Big call.
I don't think Apple will be the powerhouse in 30 years' time. But Amazon and Alibaba, Tencent, those companies, I think, are going to be the ones that are dominating our future because especially when you look at these retail-based organizations, Amazon is rolling out into so many different spheres because it's taken this model of logistics and it's applying that not just to retail, but to health insurance, to financial services. So it's able to not pivot, but actually add all these other elements to its business model without compromising what it's done. Alibaba is doing much the same thing in China and, of course, spreading internationally as well. So can we escape the big six? yes, we can. Can we escape the big 2 or 3? No, I don't think there's really any way to do that.
All right, we're gonna go through some rapid fire questions because we can do this for an hour, man. Let's be honest, right? And we probably will revisit and ask Matt anything sometime in the near future. So thank you all for the calls. Now for the messages that we've got, we're gonna go through rapid fire. So just very quickly, Matt, from Jin Mei Te on the topic of Big Brother watching you. How can I make myself invisible or go incognito in the future to make spying so much more harder?
Jinmei, there's pretty much no way you're going to be able to do that unless you move to a country that has very little technological imprint. Pretty much any time that you come online, you are going to be able to be tracked. We're even looking at being able to be tracked. I mean, we did a story a couple of weeks ago about Wi-Fi routers being used to see through walls. There's another technology that is enabling pictures to be pulled out of shadows. So, we have all of these kind of technologies that are
hide.
invasive. No, there will be no hiding.
Bobo, what do you think the future will be for stadiums and music venues?
Well, that's a really complicated question. We've just seen Coldplay say they're not going to tour internationally. Massive Attack have just published an article saying that they're putting together a consortium to track the carbon and environmental imprint of artists touring, so that artists do have various options. But what we are seeing is these kind of holographic tours. So Amy Winehouse, the opera singer Maria Callas.
There's Michael Jackson. I've seen sort of like a hologram of it. Yeah.
And we're actually seeing tours with these acts as well. There's no reason that the audiences can't be virtual as well. So you could have Coldplay playing in a room and all of the fans tuning in, so Coldplay do their global tour all in one night.
Ramesh, why aren't we all using flying cars?
Because they're rubbish, Ramesh. We've had them since 1920-something. The aerodynamics of a car, the aerodynamics of a plane are so different that when you put them together, you either end up with a very rubbish plane or a very rubbish car, or a very rubbish both.
Mali, will we ever or have to migrate to space, or will we succumb to our own actions?
Mali, difficult question. Difficult to answer as a rapid fire question. I hope that we will find some solution to our current environmental issues. If we do have to go and live in space, we still don't have any way of making those places in space habitable. I don't want to be growing potatoes out of various bits of my own body in the future.
And finally, Chang asks, when will we all be linked up to the Matrix?
Chang, we already are. I'm actually Agent Smith, and we will be ejecting you shortly after this program ends.
Matt, it's been, I guess, super fun doing a live show after, I guess, like 3 years or so.
Yeah, it has. It's been really cool. We should do it more often, I think.
Ask Matt anything. Thank you all for the calls, for the tweets, for the WhatsApp messages, and also for everyone that helped us to, I guess, get this show rolling by sharing our social media posts and stuff like that. This has been Ask Matt Anything on a very fun Friday special episode. My name is Jeff Sandu, together with Culture Pop's Matt Armitage.
Thank you.
BFM 89.9.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.